Hello, and welcome to the Night Sky Reader. I'm here with a story to help you relax, meditate, or gently drift to sleep. Tonight, The Red Ledger. Settle in, close your eyes if you'd like, and let's begin. The pencil hovers. Graphite whispers against cream paper, a sound so slight it competes with the cooling of the tea beside me. The red lamp pools its warmth across the desk, turning the open logbook the color of old brick, of dark rooms, of the ember I am waiting to see bloom somewhere above the storm line. Outside, the dome breathes. Not literally, but the metal expands and contracts in the mountain air with small ticks. I have started to notice now that the generator has settled into its hum. I am alone here, or as alone as one can be with the memory of Mara's hand on the thermos she left this evening, her voice still practical in my ear. Record what you see, not what you expect. The sprites don't perform. I write the initial conditions with the careful script of someone who has not yet learned that the night will not be managed. 22:47. Sky clarity excellent. Storm positioned 37 degrees above the southern ridge. Anvil top illuminated from within like a lantern held under dark cloth. Lightning activity moderate to high. I underline moderate twice, then stop myself, leaving the graphite dark and single. The storm sits on the horizon like a black continent. It is far enough that the thunder reaches me only as a felt vibration in the catwalk railing, not as sound proper. I have been gripping the pencil too tightly. My knuckles ache. I set it down and watch the storm pulse, waiting for the mesosphere to open. A flash lifts my eyes from paper to sky. Not the flash I am waiting for. This is ordinary lightning, the kind that keeps its business below the cloud tops, the kind that makes the anvil glow from underneath. But above it, higher than the weather that makes noise, a red sprite unfurls. It lasts less than a heartbeat, a jellyfish of scarlet tendrils rising from the storm crown, spreading into the dark, then vanishing before my next breath can complete itself. I snatch the pencil. The timestamp comes fast, the numbers pressed into the page, 23 hours, 2 minutes, and 14 seconds. I describe without looking, trusting my peripheral vision, trusting the after image burned behind my eyelids. Elongated columnar structure, symmetric branching, apparent altitude approximately 70 kilometers, slight diffuse halo. My tea is still hot. I lift the mug and find I cannot taste it. My tongue has become merely another instrument of observation, another sensor waiting for the next event. A smaller sprite follows, weaker, off to the left of the first, and I note it with clipped care. 23 hours, 8 minutes, and 33 seconds. Secondary event, diminished intensity. Possible column offset. The page fills. Each time I look up, the pencil is ready before my eyes have focused. I have come here to capture a clean sequence for the archive, and the sequence is beginning. The storm pulses like a slow heart. I track it. I timestamp it. I sip the tea that has cooled to lukewarm without my noticing. When I set the mug down, the ceramic ring against the desk sounds loud as a footstep in a cathedral. I adjust the focus of the low-light camera. Check the GPS clock blinking its steady synchronization beside the logbook. Rest my fingers on the chilled railing of the observation slit. The metal bites, and I welcome the sensation. It keeps me here. It keeps me ready. Another sprite appears, narrow and root-like, a single scarlet thread reaching upward before dissipating so cleanly it might have been a scratch on the atmosphere. I write it down, check the camera, return to the chair. A longer interval passes, long enough that I stand and press my face near the slit to check the storm's behavior, then sit again, then stand once more. I am restless in the way that specific waiting makes a body restless, not bored but pitched too high, a tuning fork that cannot stop vibrating. Then another sprite arrives, broader and softer than the first, a diffuse veil that spreads horizontally before thinning into nothing. I almost doubt it until I look at the clock and confirm I have a timestamp ready on the page. 23 hours, 44 minutes, and 2 seconds. Broad diffuse form, horizontal extent. Low overall brightness but definite structure. The tea grows cold. My handwriting compresses into smaller and smaller letters, as if exactitude of description could compel the sky to continue performing. I note a fourth event, a fifth. One is uncertain enough that I write it with a question mark beside the altitude estimate, then hesitate over that question mark, debating whether uncertainty belongs in a record meant to be useful. I leave it. The blank lines between events begin to feel accusatory, though they are simply where the night is resting. I tap the pencil against the desk, a rhythm that falls into step with the distant lightning, and I wait with my shoulders drawn up toward my ears, my jaw tight, my whole body braced against the possibility of missing the next bloom. Then the sky goes still. Not completely. The storm still breathes on the horizon, but the mesosphere closes, or seems to, and the red sprites cease. 5 minutes pass, 10. I check the camera settings again, though I know they are correct. I walk to the dome slit and press my forehead against the glass. It is cool and slightly damp with condensation from my breath. An oval fog print blooms and fades. Beyond it, the stars are steady above the weather, indifferent to the cloud drama below them. The thunder is a subsonic rumble now, more felt in the sternum than heard in the ear. I stay at the glass longer than I intend to. There is something in the pressure of it against my forehead, a cold, even solidity that the desk and the chair and the lamp cannot offer. Above the storm I can see the Milky Way, faint from the moisture in the lower air but present, a soft densening across the dark. I find myself thinking about where Sprites live, 50 to 90 kilometers up, above weather, above the altitude where aircraft fly, in atmosphere so tenuous it barely deserves the name. They are brief because the electrical discharge that makes them is brief. I know this. I have read the papers. What I have not accounted for is how knowing it would feel, standing here with my forehead against the cold glass, waiting for a transaction between a distant storm and the column of air above it, a transaction that leaves no mark on either. I return to the desk. The blank section of the page stares up at me. I want to fill it. I want to write no detection or intermittent activity, some phrase that would prove I have not stopped watching. My hand hovers over the paper, cramping slightly from the hours of tight grip. Then I turn back a few pages. The previous observer's entries sit there, small and honest, written in a hand I do not recognize. One line catches the red light. 2:17 to 3:44, uncertain. Possible diffuse events below threshold. Sky remained active. Uncertain. The word sits on the page without apology. I read it twice, and something in my chest shifts, not dramatically, just enough to notice. The previous observer had allowed the night its ambiguity, and still turned in a record worth keeping. I write my own line, slower now, the graphite dragging softly against the grain of the paper. 2:22, extended interval, mesospheric activity absent, storm maintaining base illumination, observer noting ambient conditions. I set the pencil down. My shoulders drop. The quiet of the dome enters my chest, and I exhale for what feels like the first time since I arrived. I stand to stretch, rolling my neck until I hear the vertebrae settle, and walk to the corner to refill the thermos into the mug. The kettle is just warm enough. The smell of the tea rises in the dim red air, tannic and familiar, and this time when I lift the mug I taste it, really taste it, the slight bitterness, the faint sweetness underneath. I let my eyes rest against the dark of the dome's interior curve. The metal has stopped its ticking for now. The generator hums at its steady pitch. Outside, the storm continues its patient electrical conversation with the upper atmosphere, and I am not there to witness it for this one small minute, and the record will reflect that. I am not poised when the cluster erupts. I see it from the edge of the slit, my neck turned, my hand reaching for the mug. 3 sprites in quick succession, perhaps 4. The first is a towering column of scarlet, complex as coral, branching into tendrils that seem to move slower than physics should allow. The second follows immediately, offset, broader, a veil of red light spreading horizontally across the top of the first. The third is faint, diffuse, uncertain whether it belongs to the same discharge or is merely the after image burning in my retinas. A possible fourth flickers at the edge of my vision, or does not, and by the time I have decided it was real, the entire sequence has ended, and the sky has returned to its ordinary dark. I reach the desk. The timestamps in my head read 3 hours 51 minutes and 8 seconds, 3 hours 51 minutes and 9 seconds, 3 hours 51 minutes and 11 seconds, but I cannot be certain. The third might have been 3 hours 51 minutes and 12 seconds, or it might have been the second persisting. The fourth I cannot locate in memory at all. My hand trembles slightly over the page. The archival sequence I came here to build, clean chronological entries with precise intervals and confident descriptions, is now imperfect at its most complex moment. I could reconstruct it. I could write the times as if I had been watching with the clock in my peripheral vision instead of reaching for the tea. The temptation is physical. A tightening in my throat, a faint heat in my face. The logbook is meant to be accurate. The archive depends on credibility, mine in it, not just the data's. I look at the blank space where the entry should go. I look at it for a long breath. Then I write, 351, multiple events observed during interval of observer movement. Sequence rapid, overlapping, timing approximate. First event, strong columnar structure with complex branching. Second, broad horizontal extension. Third, uncertain, possibly diffuse secondary. Fourth, unverified. I read it over. It is not the entry I wanted to make. It is the entry that happened. Something in my chest loosens further. A knot I had not known I was holding, releasing its grip on the bone beneath my sternum. The room feels larger. The red lamp seems gentler. I continue watching. The entries that follow no longer press so hard against the margins. 412. Single event, modest columnar form, good visibility. And then, 429. Brief diffuse event, low altitude, storm appearing to shift eastward along the ridge, and between these lines, unhurried spaces where the night rests, and I let it. I notice things I have been too taught to register before. The way the storm's lightning has developed a rhythm of its own over the hours, clustering in runs of 5 or 6 pulses before subsiding. The particular steadiness of a bright star that sits just above the anvil and refuses to twinkle, too high and cold to be affected by the convection below. The temperature of the floor through my boots, colder than when I arrived, the mountain giving its heat back to the dark. The weight of fatigue behind my eyes, soft and earned now rather than resisted. When the next sprite arrives, smaller than the earlier ones, a modest upward stroke of red that vanishes as cleanly as it came. I record it without urgency. 4 hours 51 minutes and 33 seconds. Single, narrow. The timestamp falls onto the page like a leaf settling onto water, not cast or placed, just arriving. The blank spaces between entries no longer read as failure. They are part of the night's shape, its architecture. I sip the now cold tea and taste it properly. I rest my hand flat on the desk for a moment, feeling the wood, and the cool air moves through the slit and across my knuckles, and I let it. Another long interval passes. I do not tap the pencil. I watch the GPS clock blink its synchronization in the dimness, watch the pale ring the mug has left on the desktop, watch a tendril of mist from my breath cross the dark glass of the slit and disperse. When a sprite comes, it comes as a visitor rather than a capture, a brief red presence that I witness without grasping. I write it down, close my eyes for a moment, let the afterimage bloom and fade in the dark behind my lids. The eastern sky begins to pale. It starts imperceptibly, a thinning of the black above the eastern ridgeline that I mistake for eye fatigue, until the stars in that quadrant begin to dim, not disappearing but retreating, giving way to a gray blue that has no source yet, that simply arrives from somewhere behind the mountains. The storm has weakened, moving off into the southeast, its anvil no longer illuminated with the same internal intensity. The thunder has ceased entirely. What remains is the aftermath of weather, the cloud remnants dispersing in the pre-dawn air, the storm becoming ordinary. A last faint flare appears over the diminishing storm line. It is uncertain, borderline, the kind of event the previous observer might have marked as below threshold. I see it clearly enough, a soft red lifting above the weather, there and then gone, like something the mesosphere said quietly before the night ended. I write, 5:47, final detection, diffuse, weak, possibly trailing discharge from diminished storm cell, sky brightening in east. I set the pencil down on top of the closed logbook. The pages sit unevenly, filled with graphite and space, precision and approximation, events and the silences between them. It is not the perfect sequence I intended to make. It is a faithful one. The red lamp matters less now. A gray-blue light is entering through the dome slit, enough to read by, barely. I switch off the lamp and sit for a moment in the pale dawn, the closed ledger resting beneath my hand. A mug ring remains on the desk, a dark circle on the wood, evidence of presence, of a night spent here. The dome's metal tick returns with the cooling, a familiar small sound. Outside, the birds will be waking soon on the slope below the observatory, though I cannot hear them yet. I stand, joints stiff, and move to the slit to look out at what the night has become. The sky in the east is pale gold behind the mountains. The southern horizon holds only ordinary cloud, gray and thinning. I look at the place where the storm was and find only weather dispersing into morning, nothing remarkable, nothing left to record. It is enough. I place the pencil precisely on top of the closed book, ready for the next observer, and I step toward the door where the morning is waiting. Thank you for spending this time with the Night Sky Reader. May your night be peaceful. Until next time, rest well.